Hello and welcome to the Siwi Sofa, where we sit down with some of the most interesting participants at the World Water Week to learn more about the array of water-related issues being discussed this week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia, host of the Siwi Sofa, and this session is convened by the Regional Environmental Center, in which we're going to be discussing local water security action planning, which is a methodology launched by the REC in April this year. It offers a theoretically informed step-by-step guide to local water security action planning, emphasizing the importance of inclusiveness and democratic decision-making. LWSAP is comprised of 7 interrelated activities that cover stakeholder analysis, public opinion assessment, local water security assessment, and problem analysis and prioritization. And joining me here on the Siwi Sofa, we have Mr. Radia Lausewitz, the director of the WaterSum project at the Regional Environmental Center. We have Professor Chad Staden, professor of resource economics and policy at the University of West England, Bristol, and founder director of the International Water Security Network. We have Dr. Anders Jägerskog of SIDA, also a counselor for regional water issues in the MENA region at the Embassy of Sweden in Jordan. And Mufla El Abadi, program manager of the Water and Climate Change Program at the IUCN region of West Africa. Welcome, gentlemen. Very nice to have you all here on the Siwi Sofa. So perhaps we can start with you, Mr. Lausewitz. What do you see as the main water security challenges for societies around the world today?
Now, being quite active in Middle East and North Africa countries, I observed that there are so many challenges. We can list it as availability. Water might be either too much or too less. Accessibility. Water could be either too far or too deep. Affordability. If accessible, water might be too expensive. Equitability. We are faced with so many inequalities. Unequal distribution, for example. Then quality. Waterborne diseases. In response to all those challenges, the Regional Environmental Center developed new methodology for local water security action planning, integrating social and indicator-based assessment, which leads towards participatory action planning at a local level. Now we tested that methodology in Jordan and Tunisia, and so far we got very good results.
Okay, what do you see water security as more as a technical challenge, or is it something that's more oriented towards policy and governance?
Difficult to say. It's obvious that if we are going to assess water security, it's necessary to use indicators and follow, for example, impact of the climate change, of population growth or urbanization. From that point of view, indeed, it's a technical issue. However, I do believe that it's much more important policy aspect. It's obvious that we need to live in peace and in political stability in order to reach water security. Transboundary cooperation is very much in that respect. In response to those issues, the Regional Environmental Center recently launched Water Growth and Stability Initiative as a framework and tool for regional cooperation through which we do hope we are contributing to the better governance, better policy, and thus increased water security.
And Professor Staden, you reviewed the methodology for local water security action planning that was developed by the REC. What's your overall impression of this methodology?
Well, first I would suggest we step back and think about how we practiced water management before local water security action planning took place. It's not so long ago that water planning in general was very much dominated by technical experts, usually from mechanical and civil engineering. And that paradigm of water management was quite all right, as long as we had enough water resources wherever we needed to manage them. We could leave the engineers to get on with the technical business of making sure that water was where we needed it in the quality we needed it. Now, with the pressures of climate change, demographic change, that's no longer the case. Indeed, if it ever was the case. Now we're faced with making very hard choices about how we'll use increasingly scarce water resources. And I think this is where local water security action planning becomes very important, indeed central to meeting the challenge of more users, less water. So it's about a transition from one kind of water management to another kind of water management. So for me, the methodology that the REC has developed and applied in practice in Jordan and Tunisia is part of this transition from a dominant technical expert-led approach to one that's based on new principles of water security planning linked to integrated water resources management. And I would note that in particular, the local water security action planning approach is very good at articulating and enacting the public participation and gender inclusion dimensions of integrated water resource management. And then finally, I would note that we're all on a journey here. We're moving from a world where we didn't think too much about water. We didn't worry about its value. We didn't worry about it quantitatively or qualitatively. Increasingly, water challenges are our challenges. They're indeed some of the key challenges of the 21st century. Local water security action planning gives us a way of engaging broader publics in that discussion. How do we do more with less water in a way that's socially legitimate through a series of interactive processes that involve people in making the decisions that will affect and shape their lives?
Let's also talk about scale. I mean, this is obviously an emphasis on the local level. And do you think that's a good place to address water security? And what do you see as being the greatest obstacles and advantages to approaching it on the local level?
Well, the first point I would make is immediacy. Water scarcity is felt by people each and every day. While we're talking now, people are dealing with different kinds of water scarcity, quantitative scarcity, qualitative scarcity, or indeed both. So that's the sharp end. Those are the people that we absolutely need to engage in this conversation if we're going to create this new paradigm, this new way of managing increasingly scarce water resources. Related to that is the issue of behavior change. I'm a Canadian living in Britain. We use a lot of water, a great deal of water. So for us, thinking about local water security action planning, and indeed I think possibly we need to be doing this in Britain, is about behavior change. And I don't think you can get individuals to change their water behaviors unless you've made them part of the conversation. I think that's absolutely critical.
And Dr. Jägerskog, perhaps you can tell us why Syria is supporting the LWSAP methodology in 8 communities in Jordan and Tunisia.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Sweden, if I may start at a slightly higher level, is supporting the region and regional water resources through different strategies that's taken at the government level, primarily focusing at the regional level. But of course, at the same time, while we are focusing at the regional level, we also recognize that if we are to achieve the things at the regional, meaning transboundary international level, the things at the national level and then the local level all needs to be in place. So therefore we're very happy that the local water security action plans are being developed, because that, as Professor Stadon so eloquently described, this is the place where people are feeling if there is good water management. It's not at the high level. But all of these needs to come together. So that's why we are very happy to see that this is included in the program, that the water sums, and we also see it as contributing to the national level and then to the regional level.
And Mr. Abadi, in a few months, when these 8 local communities in Jordan and Tunisia actually have their LWSAP plans and programs in place and fully developed, do you see this making a big difference?
Thank you. I think what we have done in Jordan and Tunisia, we developed a local water security action plan and working with a real participation with the local municipality and delegation in both countries, and we come up with a local action security plan in order to identify the problems and come up with a real action in order to solve this problem in the ground. And this is actually will benefit even the municipality by building the capacity of those actors in the ground to be more capable to deal with the water issue on the ground. In additional, it will pave the road for decentralization, which is a new trend in the region. Therefore, I think this is very important steps to involve the municipality and the delegation in the local water security management in the both countries.
Okay. Have the stakeholders there been very receptive so far?
I think the stakeholder as well in the both countries, they participated in the process in the development, and they are now working as a one team, and this is actually bridge the gap between those actors and the stakeholder, and it provide like a platform to and it brought all the stakeholder to work as a one team for water management at local level. This is actually is very important in this time, specifically when we talk about instability in the region, where is the water security one of the key issue there and has to be considered. And I would like to thank as well Rick and SIDA for this support to our region.
Okay, and if we look beyond the immediate confines of the WaterSum project, do you see the LWSAP, and I open this to all of you to reply, do you see the LWSAP methodology being applicable in other countries, perhaps other regions beyond WaterSum and beyond the MENA region?
I might try to start with a response being currently responsible for the implementation of this project. This is a typical question always asked both by donors as well as stakeholders. What after the project? WaterSum project will be over in April 2017. But we do hope that even beyond the lifetime of the project, this methodology will be applicable in the other municipalities, not only and exclusively of Middle East and North Africa region, but also other regions. Methodology itself is in public domain. Anyone interested can visit our website rec.org and download publication itself, manual, which describes methodology in each and every single step. Also, interested individuals could apply for our distance learning platform, through which they can pass relatively short course through which they are becoming so-called certified local water security action planner. We do hope that methodology will continue its lifetime through the implementation in many other municipalities. By doing so, we'll try also to disseminate this knowledge to the other potentially interested municipalities. We'll participate 2017 4th Arab Water Week, which will be held in March at the Dead Sea in Jordan. We are organizing final project conference from 10th to 13th April 2017, also in Jordan. Both events will be used to disseminate this information, but also mentioned Water Growth and Stability Initiative. That electronic platform will be used as a knowledge-based platform, and all that hopefully will disseminate this methodology, which will be implemented hopefully in many other local communities across the world.
Anders?
If I may add, thank you very much. From my perspective, from the Swedish perspective, we are of course happy to see that the platform is created, etc. And we always look for partners that are able to make methodologies or other types of frameworks that are applicable not only necessarily in the particular basin or communities where they are being implemented at first, but also which has a potential for duplication elsewhere. So we look at this very positively.
If I could make 2 points. I've already pointed out that I think we could do with some local water security action planning in Britain. Although Britain is widely seen as a very wet place, it's also a very crowded place. And so issues of water scarcity and water quality are ever present in Britain. So I think in terms of your question about applicability in other geographical realms, the answer is straightforward yes. And not just in developing dryland settings like North Africa or similar elsewhere around the world. I think also in Western Europe and Northwestern Europe, there's a real need for these sorts of approaches that would engage local citizens in being part of the process of making water allocation decisions that will affect their lives. I wonder if Anders would agree about its applicability even in Sweden.
Possibly, it could be.
If you allow me here, the manual itself or developed in the ground and working with the stakeholder, and this developed over 2 years by considering the local circumstances in our region there. Therefore, it is developed by participation from the different stakeholders. It's not developed in the offices. It's developed in the ground where we are facing the real challenges. Therefore, it's, I think, provide very practical tools to involve the different stakeholders to start identifying the water problems and to come up with action in order to meet and solve the problem in the ground, and as well to meet the needs of those stakeholders and the local community. I think this is very practical, can be applicable in the region because it's really developed in the region, not outside the region, which is the value behind having such excellent approach or methodology for water security planning.
I'm also wondering whether there's some sort of a feedback mechanism where you could perhaps learn from this 1 year in the field of implementing it in the MENA region, whether this methodology will evolve over time past the 1 year period of the WaterSum project.
What we didn't mention is that this methodology is very much based on a long-lasting REX experience in a participatory action planning at a local level. Some 25 years ago, we started with development so-called local environmental action planning methodology. All of the time, we are trying to update and upgrade methodology. Same will be happening with the local water security action planning methodology. It will be, first of all, adapted to each and every local circumstances, but of course also modified in line with new findings which we'll collect during the implementation. What is also very much important, this is not only about planning. This is action planning, and the final result is the list of actions. Through the WaterSum project, and hopefully through many other similar exercises, it's offered concrete support to the implementation of identified priority actions. In a such way, local stakeholders do see that once they are implementing appropriate participatory planning, action planning at a local level, then it's much easier to translate it into the concrete actions and the implementation. Therefore, we are looking very much forward to 8 excellent local pilot projects, 4 in local communities in Tunisia, 4 in local communities in Jordan, which hopefully will be presented next year on World Water Week 2017.
Any final thoughts or comments?
If I may offer an observation. When I was reviewing the local water security action planning methodology, I reflected on a fundamental question, which was, why has this not been invented before? And it occurred to me that that's always the nature of a genius idea. You sit back and you look at it and you think, well, this is self-evident. Of course we need to do this. And then you think, but why didn't we think about that before? We've had 20-some years of integrated water resources management, but nobody invented a local integrated water resources management framework. It took a slightly different idiom in a slightly different geographical context to make that leap, to suggest that to do these things, to face the water challenges that we're now facing, we need to go to the local and then build scale back up towards the national and the global. I think for me, that was one of the moments of genius contained in this methodology.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on the Siwi SOFA, and best of luck implementing the LWSAP methodology and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for tuning in to the Siwi SOFA. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the World Water Week.